In the evolution of cities, we've come a long ways very fast.
We're 20, 30 minutes away from anywhere you want to be in LA County.
I've worked with a number of prominent cities, and I can assure you that we have the best mayor and city council and executive team in the country.
Carson Palmer, so great to have you here, and what a happy accident that we have a Bengals quarterback, #1 overall pick in 2003, and the Bengals are in the Super Bowl. Not only that, but Joe Burrow, like you, is a Heisman Trophy winner, #1 overall pick, and suffered a devastating torn ACL. What do you think of Joe Burrow and what you've seen so far?
I mean, it's just been a magical run. I think when you look at the Cincinnati Bengals roster back in September, and if you were to print it out on a piece of paper and throw it across the league to every NFL exec, I don't think there's one exec that would say, yeah, that looks like a Super Bowl contending team. This roster looks that good. It's just been a magical run. I mean, they were 10-7 in the regular season. They won 3 more times than they lost. They found their way in the playoffs in a down year in the AFC North with Lamar Jackson getting hurt and the Steelers being down. But it's been a snowball. They've just slowly gotten better as the season's gone on. And they have some holes. I mean, they have some massive holes in their roster. But they go into Tennessee and beat the #1 seed, getting sacked 9 times in a game. And I mean, that right there illustrates everything you need, to me, it illustrates everything you need to know about Joe. You can't fluster him. You can't rattle him, because getting sacked 2 or 3 times in a game is flustering. Your offensive line turn around picking you up, saying, "Hey man, sorry I got beat." Your defense is watching you on the sideline getting sacked. But when it happens 9 times, it's demoralizing. And to not get flustered, to not lose their confidence, to find a way to win that game against the best team in the AFC, in their home, on the road. Joe you can't fluster him. You can't shake him. He just has this poise about him. It's Brady-like. It's Montana-like. And I'm not trying to heap those expectations and put those on him, but there's just something about his poise that you don't see, especially when you factor in he's 22 years old. He's in year 2. He looks, when he's on the field, like he's in year 12 and he's 33. Yeah. But the guy just has a way to block out all the distractions, block out all the negativity around him, and focus on his job. And he's been unbelievable. And I don't know if they have the magic to get past this all-star team the Rams have, but they've got a lot of belief in Joe. They've got a lot of confidence in Joe, and Joe has probably the most confidence on the football field.
Have you ever been sacked 5, 6, 7 times in a game?
I have not been sacked 9 times. I've probably been sacked 4 or 5, and I'm telling you, every time, it's 2nd and 10, you get sacked. Now it's 3rd and 20, and against the Aaron Donald, Von Miller pass rush, that is really difficult to overcome. It's tough to overcome on the road in the #1 seed AFC Titan, Tennessee Titans home. You continuously get sacked like that. It ruins your mindset, and it can change the way you play the game. It's really easy. You start getting sacked 4, 5, 6 times, your eyes go from looking at the defense down to the rush and trying to figure out where the soft spot in the pocket is to move to. That gets you off your game, and you just don't see that from Joe. I know I've been in that situation where I've been sacked 3, 4, 5 times. It changes your mindset. You start looking at the rush. You start thinking, I got to get the ball out. I got to get the ball out. The clock goes off in your head. So it can ruin a game for you really, really, really quickly after you've been sacked 3, 4, 5 times. But once you get up almost into double digits, it seems impossible to overcome. I'm still shocked that they overcame that game.
Yeah, and you think about that matchup, and you mentioned it, and you got Leonard Floyd, too, coming off the edge. Is that a real advantage for the Rams when they're playing at home, and you've got Aaron Donald, you've got Von Miller, who's been a Super Bowl MVP, against a line that's, particularly in the interior, been pretty vulnerable?
Yeah, I mean, back when Joe got hurt last year, the Cincinnati Bengals organization was not thinking, all right, next year we're going to the Super Bowl. They were trying to plan for Joe's contract and plan for all the things that come up within the salary cap. And the offensive line was a big issue. It was something they were looking at going, we got to continuously build this. We got to draft. We got to, go in free agency. And that offensive line is in the bottom, third of the league when you rank them against the rest of the league. When you rank that LA Rams defensive line, they're the best defensive line in the league. And then there's a bunch of other guys in second and fighting for third. But you've got a very, very below average offensive line against the best defensive tackle in football. As you said, a former Super Bowl MVP in Von Miller and Leonard Floyd, a top 10 pick. I mean, that pass rush is fierce. The offensive line for the Bengals is not built for this. The offensive line for the Bengals is built for the AFC North playing against Pittsburgh's defensive front, playing against Baltimore's big, physical, run-first defensive front. And so they are not equipped for this. They are not built for this. I think this is the biggest issue the Bengals have going into this game is protecting Joe against that pass rush.
Can you discuss the difficulty of overcoming a torn ACL and how that might change your mindset in terms of stepping up in the pocket and doing those things for the rest of your career? Because you obviously had that devastating injury in the playoff game against Pittsburgh, a Pittsburgh team that went on to win the Super Bowl, beat Seattle in the Super Bowl. You had dominated them in the regular season. You swept them in the regular season. And yet you came back and you also suffered a torn ACL in Arizona. So how big a deal is it that Joe Burrow is a year removed from this?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the most impressive thing about all this that there's not a lot of talk about. Year one coming off of that injury, and as you said, I've done it twice. I know what it's like. It's a grind of an off season. I mean, as soon as he went in to the surgeon's office and the surgery was performed, I believe in November, you start in December, and there is no off season. You're in the gym, you're at the rehab facility, you're going and getting checked by the doctor once a week. There is no, I'm going to go to Hawaii and sit by the pool. It is a grind from 2 weeks post-surgery all the way through the offseason. So Joe's had a long, long year, and it started, back when he left LSU. I mean, you think about what he's done in the last 2 years. You win a national championship, you win the Heisman, you get ready for the draft, you train for all that, your season starts, you're starting as a rookie, you're thrown in the fire day one. There was no welcome to the NFL, we're going to give you a couple weeks to figure this out. He started game one, he got hurt, he went right into physical therapy, which is a 6, 7, 8 hour deal every single day, not 6 days a week, 7 days a week. You're always trying to get back. If there's no days off, there's no days by the pool. And you factor in the length of work, the duration. It's been 2 straight years. And then you get to the playoffs, you don't have another offseason when, most of the league is not in the playoffs and their offseason starts. You're continually grinding and grinding and grinding. And you're not seeing those effects on Joe. And I felt those effects, there's no doubt about it. Your knee's not where it needs to be. Your knee wasn't intended to be sliced open and pulled together and things to be tied together. It needs time to recover. And so Joe has not had that recovery yet. It's just been a constant grind since he got hurt the previous November. And so you're not seeing that wear and tear. You're not seeing the lack of confidence that you can have in that knee because it's not quite there yet. It needs really 2 years to completely heal. But again, Joe is so poised. He's unrattleable. You can't get in his head. When you watch him play, he's stepping into throws. He's transferring his weight, getting velocity on the ball. It's his front leg. It's that front leg in a throwing motion. There's a lot of torque. There's a lot of turn and spin on that ACL, and that's what the ACL is there for the knee to do, is to let the knee do that. And I remember my first couple times just getting in the pocket in the game, and I wasn't quite transferring my weight. I wasn't quite getting into the throw because I was worried about that rotational pull on the ACL. And I mean, I watched the first game of the year the Bengals played. It's like it never happened. It truly is amazing. And the guy is so mentally strong. He is so tough. It doesn't bother him. It doesn't come in the back of his mind. It was in the back of mind for an entire season after each ACL tear. Man, I'm throwing to that guy, but I feel a presence coming this way, and I'm worried he's going to hit my knee. And so you just kind of take your eye off it for a quick second, and you don't see that. Joe focuses in on his target. He knows where the ball needs to go, and nothing gets in his vision. He completely is able to block all of these other fears and worries and concerns out and focus on the job at hand.
You mentioned his career, amazing career at LSU, record-setting career. You had a great career at SC, particularly that last year, and really that second half of the last season. What was it like being Los Angeles' NFL quarterback when there was no NFL team in LA. There was no SoFi Stadium. You were at the Coliseum, but SC was the NFL team in LA. What was that like?
It was amazing. There's just something special about LA when the Trojans are good. And even when the Rams are good, or if the Chargers are good, there's just something different. I mean, I'll never forget being on the field and being in the huddle and warming up before the game and seeing other teams come down to the stadium floor at the Coliseum. And you've been there when the band's going nuts. But, you know, there's Will Ferrell, there's Snoop Dogg, Denzel Washington. I mean, there's just all these, you know, these players come into the stadium. These are guys they idolize and know every line from every movie or every word from every song. And that was just normal. And we, as players, when Pete was there, we saw them, you know, all these stars, all these Hollywood stars would be at practice. They come out and watch us practice, let alone watch the game. And you could see other teams kind of get overwhelmed with it as they're coming on the stage. You know, you're in there, you're getting warm, you got the game, and you can see them pointing at each other and pointing in the stands and seeing different guys. And there's just something special about this city when the Trojans are good. And the city's great when the Rams are good and the Lakers are good. But there's a special place in this city's heart for the Trojans.
And Pete Carroll really helped build that culture. And you were there at the ground floor with Pete Carroll, who was the third choice of SC. What did you notice about him? What was it about his personality that really jibed with LA and these players?
Yeah, I mean, he embraced it. He came in, and I had come in under the previous regime in Paul Hackett, and there was this kind of there was a recruiting process that had been happening. It got really stale. We went to the same restaurants. We take players, show them this, and Pete said, no. We're not going to we're not putting guys on a bus and driving down to Palos Verdes. We're going to be at around LA Live. We're going to be right here in the heart of the city. And he embraced and realized the asset that LA was to attract top talent from all over the country, not just Southern California, not just the state of California. He was recruiting guys from Ohio and Pennsylvania and Florida and New York, I mean, all over the country. He took SC nationwide, and he embraced LA. Hey, Will Ferrell, please come out to play. I mean, he was reaching out to these guys. Denzel, we'll give you a ticket. You know, he knew that was an asset that other schools couldn't compete with, and so he embraced it. He exploited it. He used LA to show these kids that, you know, that were coming in on recruiting trips, but also going to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and show them that this place is different. You have to have a certain appreciation for how special it is. This is not a small-time college town. And just being around him for a couple short years and seeing the way he handles a team, seeing the way he leads, seeing the way he would get up in front of a team and respond to adversity, and seeing the way he would get up in front of the team and congratulate success. I mean, it was eye-opening for me, and I learned lessons from Pete my junior and senior year of college that I used through my 15-year NFL career.
With what happened on the field with USC, the success on the field, that set a pretty high bar that USC's been trying to recapture that magic. How much do you know Lincoln Riley? Do you know the guy at all? Do you have any thoughts on how he's going to do there?
I don't know him personally other than just congratulatory talk when he got the job. But it just, what was so crazy about it came out of nowhere. I mean, normally you hear there's like a rumbling. Oh, I heard they're going after Lincoln Riley. I heard there's a plane going to Oklahoma. Like, there was nothing. It was silent. And there was a lot of rumors. And all of a sudden, like that, a switch went on, and Lincoln Riley's the head coach, and he's actually in the air right now, flying from Norman, landing at 7 a.m. or whatever it was. And the excitement, the enthusiasm, the electricity is back, and it's been lacking for a while. And there was a lot of doubt in previous coaching staffs. There was doubt in the hiring process. There was doubt, like there was no big names available. There was no big free agent, splashy free agent coach that they were going to go after. And so everything was kind of quiet and mellow about that process. And then the light went on, and it was Lincoln Riley, and nobody expected it. And everybody was like, and my first response was like, yeah, obviously, what a great target. What a great, you know, he's had success. He's a former player. He can recruit. He's young. He's energetic, and he wants, you know, what he left and what he went through to get to USC. You got to be a certain type of individual to put yourself through that, to put your family through that. There was a lot of negative talk, obviously, surrounding that, and he knew it. He knew he was in for it. but he knew how special the opportunity was to come to LA and be the USC head football coach, and the tradition and the excellence and the national championships, the All-American, all those things that USC is, the history of the school. He wanted to be a part of that and was willing to go through some mud to get here. And that just shows you, how special he knows this opportunity is. And really how special of an opportunity being in the Pac-12, being at USC is to get to a national championship. Because staying at Oklahoma and moving into the SEC, you've got 6, 7, 8, 9 contenders you got to worry about every single year. Coming to USC, I think he realized that along with the greatness of the school and the university, it's a much easier path to win national championships, having to get through Oregon and UCLA. You don't have to worry about Georgia. You don't have to worry about Alabama. There's so many schools in the SEC that he was. I think everything about this job excited him.
There's been a seismic shift in college football, name, image, likeness. You can now market yourself. I can't imagine what your marketability would have been in LA as the NFL team, quasi-NFL team, and Heisman winner. How do you think that's going to change college football for the good or for the worse?
I don't think it's for the good. I don't think it's for the good for the player or for this game or for the universities. I was driving down from Santa Barbara this morning, and I got a text message, and it was a group text from Troy Polamalu, Kerry Colbert, Malifo McKenzie, all my roommates in college. And they were making fun of me because yesterday I went on the Pat McAfee show, and I had like a wrinkled shirt. And they were making fun of me. It's like, did you get that T-shirt, the Sloss and Swap Meet? Because when we were students and we lived up by the school, we would go to the Sloss and Swap Meet and buy T-shirts and underwear and socks because they were cheap. Because we didn't have any money. We were barely affording rent. We couldn't eat. We were trying to figure out where to get food, who had the hookup to go get some food. But they were sending me this. They were making fun of me, and we were on a text chain. And we used to go to the Sloss and Swap Meet every couple weeks and load up on the bare essentials because we didn't have any money. We didn't have money for gas. We were riding bikes. Troy ended up buying a van for like $600 that we would all pile into and get to class. And it's funny now because you're hearing stories about kids, guys in college are making $1 million and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the purity of the game is what I loved. And the relationships I built with my teammates at USC, it was for the love of the game. There was no money involved. I mean, our school was getting paid for, which is tremendous and a blessing. But we were scraping by in college, trying to figure out the first time on your own. I can't imagine going back to 19 years old and having a name, image, and likeness deal with whoever it may be, and having that other set of pressures that comes along with that. There's enough pressure on you when you're doing it just for your scholarship check, and you're at USC in the heart of Los Angeles. But now, I just worry that the game is being tainted. I worry that, on a larger scale, the USCs, the UCLAs, the Alabamas, those schools can compete. They have large endowments, huge endowments. My younger brother Jordan went to UTEP, University of Texas. They can't compete with Texas and Texas Tech and Texas A&M. There's just some smaller schools, the have-nots, as we all heard Nick Saban say a couple weeks ago. Those schools are going to be negatively affected by this. And I just think it's a tough spot to put an 18, 19-year-old kid in with adding that amount of pressure when you've got a lot of pressure on you as is.
You mentioned Jordan, who played in your long shadow as a quarterback, and now he's the star of the family. I mean, he is the top quarterback coach in the country to prepare players for the draft. And did you see that? He's so inventive, so innovative in a lot of his pursuits, but now he's become the guy that everybody wants to get to. What did you see in him that might have given you that indication?
Yeah, we were teammates for a couple years in Cincinnati, and he was not the most athletically gifted, but his mind saw it. And you can't say that for even half the starting quarterbacks in the league. There's a lot of guys that get away with just being physically gifted, and they don't see the game like a coach, like a teacher. And I was fortunate to play for a lot of great coaches. And the best coaches I ever played for were great coaches, but they were great teachers. And finding a way to deliver your message to where it's absorbed by your pupil is a real difficult ability to have. You either have it or you don't. You can either break something down and I can explain something to you and the next guy and the next guy, and I may need to explain it 3 completely different ways because your mind works a certain way, you see the game a certain way, very different from the next individual, and he has such a distinct ability to make sure each kid absorbs it and hears it and gets better from it. And it sounds like a simple thing. It is not. I've been around so many coaches that didn't have that ability. And there's kids from all over the place in different backgrounds and different learning styles. Some people need to watch it on film. Some people need to write it down on a piece of paper. Some people need to experience it on the field and learn from all 3 of those different things. And he has such a unique ability to, however he does, he figures out a way, this is going to hit you to where you absorb this and learn this. And this is going to hit you, and he has a great ability to deliver that message to where it is best absorbed by each individual kid. And now, I mean, I was at his latest camp. I was a dad in the stands. I've got a 13-year-old quarterback, and he does these satellite camps all over the country, and kids come from all over the country, and parents fly in. We flew in from Idaho. And that's, I'm learning. I played a lot longer. I have more stats than Jordan does, but I'm there listening to technique and fundamentals and hearing it a different way than I've heard it from any coach I played for. And I played for a lot of different coaches in my career. So I understand how important it is. I know how good he is at it, being a teammate of his, being his brother. But now I'm one of the dads that's listening for advice and hearing different things on throwing motion, technique, and posture and stance and all these different things that I wish I would have learned back when I was playing, because I would have been able to avoid some inefficiencies in my throwing motion. I would have been able to avoid some injuries I had in my elbow and shoulder. And he's truly unique. He's really, really special and really gifted at what he's doing.
He not only teaches quarterbacks all over the country with technology, all over the world, people come to Jordan Palmer. And I wonder if you can sort of list some of the guys that we would know that he has coached.
Well, Joe Burrow and Stafford both come down and throw during his.
Well, there you go.
I mean, you name the last.
Yeah.
I feel like he's had the last number 1 or number 2, 3 picks that are all quarterbacks in the last 10 years. I mean, Josh Allen, Sam Darnold. He's got Ritter from University of Cincinnati this year, who won't be a top pick, but somebody he really likes. I don't even know. I mean,
let's go right down the line.
Name most of the starters in the league.
Probably be easier to list the guys he doesn't have.
It'd be easier, yeah. I mean, even guys like Phillip Rivers, when he was playing, he would come down and work. So he's training guys to get ready for the draft, but he's also created this environment and this facility where different starters that have been, like Stafford's been in Detroit for a decade, a little more than a decade. That it's an environment where they can come, they can learn. And he's got guys that are current players playing for a long time, guys that are going to be first-round picks, second-round, third picks. You're right. It's easier to name the guys that are starters in the league that have not worked with him than it is the guys that have.
Let's talk about you and what you're doing now. I came up and visited you in Idaho, and you're really off the grid, and you're just a regular, normal guy. And what was behind that decision? Because you could have gone any direction after your career.
Yeah, I got done playing and had a bunch of different TV networks interested in going into some sort of the media, whether calling games or in-studio stuff. And I went and interviewed and did it and had offers. And I got 4 young kids, and we're sitting there with my wife, and we're looking at different contracts. And something was uneasy about it. That was my wheelhouse. I have a PhD in football. I can talk about it all day long. I know it all. I can talk about any protection, any scheme, all that. And I was sitting there looking at, different networks and going through the travel schedule and going through all these things, and then talking about how much I want to coach my son's football team and play golf with my daughter and go hunting and fish and do all these things I wasn't able to do when I was playing for so long. And I just realized that my heart wasn't in it, and I wasn't in a place where I needed to do something that my heart wasn't in. And I've always been extremely into real estate in one fashion or another. And so I called the guys at the different studios and just said, I'm going to go a different direction. And that was another couple week conversation. Why, how, adjusting this, do we adjust this? And I finally just was like, my heart's not in it. I'm not 100% into this, and I don't want to do anything that I can't give my all and give my 100%, because that's what I've been doing, and that's what football was for me. And so I started taking classes online. I took a MIT architectural class and passed that and just fell in love with that. Unfortunately, I took UCLA is a great school. They have a great online, and SC doesn't have an online presence, but UCLA has a great, so I took a couple classes, real estate classes in UCLA's online platform. And so I fell deeper and deeper in love with learning about it and finding out more about myself and what aspect of real estate I wanted to get into. And then partnered up. I think I introduced you when you came up to ski with me in Idaho. My partner, we're a two-man shop. It's just two of us. No employees. We can focus on small deals, and we're in real estate development. We started a small company called Silent Water Real Estate, and excited about the future that's there for us.
Yeah, that might be the headline out of this, that Carson Palmer is a UCLA student.
Man, I can't believe I said that out loud. Sam, you got me.
That's tremendous. But you are a regular guy up there, but people do the triple take too. And wait, is that Carson Palmer? I recognize that guy. Often you'll have a beard. What was the story about the guy who saw you when you were fishing? You were in your hip waders fishing, and a guy came by, I think he might have been a Bengals fan or something, and said, "Is it you?" Do you remember that?
Oh. We talked about that? I forgot about that. Yeah, we had been in Phoenix, which is, the sixth largest city in the country, been in LA, been in big cities, Oakland, and we just wanted to raise our kids somewhere slower and really slow down the pace of life. And you can't avoid your children growing up in your shadow forever, but we wanted some time away from it. And so we moved to Idaho. I was going to this super remote fishing spot with a couple buddies where there's big rainbow trouts, big brown trout. And so we're all pumped to go. And I'm with a couple buddies that if they heard I played football, they'd be like, "Oh, so when's your next game?" I'd be like, "Dude, it's March. This is not, like, football season's in the fall." Like, they don't know anything about football. They don't care about football. And this guy recognizes as we're putting our waders on and getting ready to get on the river, and this guy just won't leave me alone. He's like, keeps talking. I'm with a couple other guys, and these other guys never really put it together what I did, and they don't even know what a Heisman Trophy is. They don't know, NFL draft. When is that? How does that work? They're totally immune to all that the NFL is. And this guy just, "Can I get an autograph?" He actually I think he pulled like a Bengals jersey out of his car. And I'm in the middle of nowhere in Idaho, where you would never think you see a Bengals fan. But the guys I was with, the buddies I'd known for a while, had no idea what my previous life was. And it was like an eye-opening thing, like, "Oh my gosh, you're a football guy, football player," But that's what's been so great about Idaho and coaching my kids' team. People don't care. People aren't interested in that. People, they want to be outside. They want to be on the river, skiing, fishing, hunting, whatever it is. So it's been a really nice reprieve for our kids to enjoy these last 4 or 5 years, not in my shadow, not in the spotlight of a big city.
Well, we in LA care. We love you, Carson. Thank you so much for being the first guest at Hall of Farmer, and it was terrific. And which way is this game going to go? Last bit.
Yeah, I mean, as special as it would be for the Bengals to take this title home to Cincinnati, I can't imagine that city on a victory parade Monday or Tuesday. I just don't know. There's so much star power. There's so much firepower. That defensive pass rush the Rams have, the best corner in the game, Stafford. I mean, there's so many all-stars. Andrew Whitworth, the left tackle. There's just great players. They've been there before. A lot of these guys have played in the Super Bowl previously in 2018. I just don't know if the Bengals have enough firepower to keep up with the Rams.
Yeah, well, thanks so much, Carson.
Thanks, Sam.